Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk about The Walking Dead Season 7 premiere. Now, for you guys that are new here, we have a prediction video coming right behind this video. We also have an in-depth afterthoughts video where we use your fan feedback, so do not forget to tell us what you thought about this episode down in the comment box. Depending on how much there is to discuss, that will be out in a day or two, give or take. And there's also a reaction video and a lot more, depending on if there's separate topics to discuss. Now, let me begin by saying I'm not just a fan of the show, but I'm also very active in the online community. And I feel like that's important because there's two main groups of fans. And no, this isn't about which one's better than the other. This is about what stole the suspense from a lot of fans in the online community and some off the online community during this episode specifically. Now, the two groups of fans are the ones that are active online and then the ones that aren't. Like, I have a friend of mine who's not at all. He doesn't even have a Facebook, right? And he asked me about a month and a half ago if I heard about 2 double deaths and Carl getting his hand chopped off. That's pretty disappointing. And he heard that because after season 6 ended, that spoiler leaked out. Now, we're not talking about people looking for spoilers in communities or just Googling them and seeing what they can discover. We're talking about fans in non-spoiler communities, just regular fans, and people come in and just lay out all the spoilers. So you will see a lot of fans that are very disappointed, a lot of active fans, because obviously the cliffhanger, and it ended up being a fail in the respect of keeping the spoilers hidden. And I've talked about this in another episode about one of the greatest failures in TV history. And as much as I love the episode, when it comes to keeping the secrets, yeah, it falls under that category. And it comes down to the choice of deciding to film this with so many extras present. And I discussed this in a different video where they could have used angles, different camera angles, that did not have any extras in it, you know? Upward shots, sideways shots. I mean, you could have the vehicles. Feels like there's different choices for something like that to keep the spoilers from leaking out. So if you are very disappointed, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions about it down below, because it seems like the fan base is pretty mixed right now. Some are disappointed, some are just okay that it's over with and are looking forward to more surprises coming this season. Now, I will say before we get off this topic, this episode feels like a strong one that you might enjoy a hell of a lot more comes when you buy season 7 on Blu-ray, like when some time has passed. And this happens for me with some episodes where I'm like, man, that was disappointing, yada yada yada. And when you go back and rewatch it, it really hits you and you're like, oh man. So keep that in mind. Definitely revisit this, maybe give it a few weeks, maybe give it a couple months and revisit it and see if you feel any different. One thing I want to discuss before I forget, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I apologize, I called him a crackhead Negan, I believe, at the end of season 6. Now, although he claims he's too old for that shit when it comes to bulking up, son of a bitch, he did a fantastic job. I think he was on point in almost every scene. In literally almost every scene. Yeah, I can't think of one moment where I was like, that's a little iffy. With the end of season 6, and this is why I stand by my argument, it was too soon to get him in there. Season 7 felt like a different Negan. Not just that we saw mean Negan, like we saw Papa Negan ready to spank Rick, right? Remember in the trailer, he's like, "Get me my axe." Mean Negan. And then we saw him at the end too. So I want to applaud Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I apologize for calling you Negan crackhead. You still are, but you're one of the best Negan. No, I'm just kidding. He killed it. And Andrew Lincoln, again, brought his A game. The entire cast and crew, fantastic job with the cinematography, the lighting, the scenery, the zombies, the gore, the special effects. I mean, everything, the way it was shot. The one thing keeping this from being an almost perfect episode, I feel, are the leaks and spoilers. I feel so strongly that please, if you're mad at this episode, please give it some time. Come back, revisit it, trust me. I've shit-talked on a couple episodes, and I'll be straight up honest with you, that I watched a year later and I was like, I feel like a dick. You know? Yeah, the cast and crew, one more thing before we move on to the next thing. When they had the final death dinner at Alexandria. You see Glenn there, and then you see Abraham at the table, and they gave each other a smile. I felt like this was it was a very sweet exit for them, but it was also, for comic book fans, really reminiscent of The New Beginning. I'm hesitant to speak because I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to stop right there, but I got that vibe, and I loved it, because what happens with Negan and moving forward kind of carries us into that, you know? I'll speak on that in a different video. And fuck me, Daryl. I have bitched a couple times about Daryl being put into certain predicaments that are iconic scenes from the comic fan inside of me. And it's a conflict because I absolutely adore Norman Reedus. I've loved him since Boondock Saints, you know? When he stood up and punched Negan, I'm like, fuck. The comic fan in me was like, fuck, just kill him. Just fucking shoot him. Dwight, shoot him, you son of a bitch. You know, do not let me down, Dwight. You fucking let me down, Dwight. But I tell you what, this was it. This was a conflict inside me where I thought my chest was going to explode, because at that moment I think I even did throw my tablet on my pad, my writing pad for my notes. I think I even threw that, and I was like, fuck, man, come on, Daryl, what is this shit? Daryl punches Negan. But what happened after with Glenn, it created this, as a fan, this internal conflict where I hated the fact that Daryl Dixon stood up and punched the mighty, iconic Negan, the big villain. But because it brought in the scene with Glenn getting the death, so iconic, but it was almost panel for panel, like screen for screen, especially when Negan was holding his bat, like behind his back, and it's sticking out back. When he's holding a bat like that, that is a comic panel, and I loved it. Glenn's eye popping out. I didn't hear quite what he said. It sounded like he said, "I'll find you" or something, but I didn't get it. His eye popping out, all the imagery of that, the words, the dialogue, the scenes, and not just that too. And I mean, that's the most epic though, and the conflict with it. And I didn't even cry at that moment. And I found out I don't really cry when the deaths come. It was later with Maggie's performance, Lauren's performance, when Maggie was telling them to go, you know, and she dropped that one line where she says, "You can't be out here. You're out here for me. You got to get back. You can't be out here for me." And that's what like crushed me. But not just the death being iconic, looking panel for panel from comic to the screen, but it was inside the RV with the axe when Negan says, "Your best chance is to grab that axe." It was dialogue sprinkled throughout, where the dialogue was very reminiscent from the comic. It might have been in different situations as far as what's happening on screen, but it was fantastic. The comic book fan in me, because I've been campaigning for Glenn to take that death, because a lot of the TV fans don't get the same deaths that their character got in the comic book. A lot of them haven't. As a matter of fact, I think Glenn is one of the first TV character to get his identical comic book death. It was altered slightly with Abraham dying first, and there's frustrations there, and we're going to do a separate video on that, because this is a big discussion in the fan base because of how quickly that was leaked. And we're talking this entire episode, everything from them dying to Carl getting his hand cut off. With that said, you know what? We're going to go over a lot of the details in the follow-up video, but with that said, and in closing, I am very conflicted right now. I mean, very conflicted. There's moments here where I see one of the best episodes in The Walking Dead, and it's hearing for months now so many people with the same predictions, the same speculation, because in the online community, what's common, fans will get spoilers, and then they'll come over to other places and talk to people, and they'll use the spoilers, real spoilers, as their predictions or theories. And we see it because we'll have 50 people out of the blue one day with the same theory, you know, all of a sudden, you know. So I am really conflicted, and I think this is going to be a very fun and interesting afterthoughts video, because I am dying to hear what you guys say. I've seen some very pissed off comments, but I've seen some fans who said that they truly love this episode. I've seen some comments that said this is one of the best episodes so far. And I don't know if they're saying that because we had a tremendous loss, you know? I'm just unsure right now. But as far as how they feel, I think this, between the acting, the storytelling, the symbolism there with Rick being at that same place, that crossroads, having to bend down to get back on his knees again to pick up the accident, running off, jumping on that zombie, all that shit, I loved it. Negan taking him out there, just something small. So much we can pick from to get the symbolism behind it, but I am torn. This does not seem like it's fans taking pictures from the side of the road or whatever, or in the woods, wherever the hell they hide. It was one of the crew, and I am sure of it at this point, because the main points that were spoiled just happened to be the main points that were filmed with the extras all around. The deaths, and then you have Carl getting his hand chopped off. But I noticed now, I don't ever remember hearing comments of what happened when Negan took Rick. So if you notice a pattern, they were able to say this happened, this and this and this, and everything, the three main points, right, happened with the extras. So I'm incredibly torn. I'm really disappointed. And for any extra that may have leaked some shit, you're a giant dick. A massive dick. And you don't even deserve to be on the set. I'll say that straight up. I think you're a massive dick. I did have a lot of fun with it, though, even though it was really frustrating. In closing, leave your thoughts and opinions in that comment box. I am very curious to see what you guys have to say. I'm done talking. It's your turn.
Subscribe now.